Hey there, welcome to this week's follow-up practice tips video. Before you do anything else, make sure you go watch the original YouTube video first. It'll be linked below, very important for context. And that video is just all about that whole feeling you get of why does everybody else sound better than me? Even if they've been playing the same amount of time or they're not playing something complicated, your version just doesn't sound quite as good. Why is that? Well, there are technically a bunch of reasons that that's possible, but I focused in on two of them. So they're kind of, the main two are, one, you are not comfortable enough with what you play and what you're playing. And two, your sense of rhythm is not developed enough. Now, what this can really be boiled down to is that you're just spending too much time trying to add more stuff on, thinking that it's going to somehow make your playing sound better. I see this is probably the number one mistake and problem that I see in a lot of guitar players who are learning, especially at that upper beginner intermediate phase. They're like, well, I need the modes, right? Or I need every single scale position, or I'm not going to sound as good. And that's why other people sound better. And the truth is that most of the music you listen to, not all, but most of it, and most of the stuff that you really like is really just a very strong and good use of the fundamentals. And things like modes, I pretty much never use them just because of the styles of music that I like. I'll dabble with some outside notes here and there, but for the most part, it's just a good use of the fundamentals and something I've really focused on. And if you really spend your time on getting those fundamentals, getting comfortable with those fundamentals, well, there's basically infinite music that you can make with that. And it's really about taking something that you're super comfortable with and learning how to use that as a tool to communicate the message you want to. So if I were to break this kind of all down or use like, it's not really an analogy, but if you were to think about it, think about an intermediate guitar player who maybe they had a year to practice, okay? And one of them decided, I'm only going to play position 1 of the pentatonic scale. That's all I'm gonna do. Just position 1, nothing else. I'm gonna limit myself, and I'm only gonna play stuff from that position. And then another guitar player, same level, decided to spend that same year, and they said, I'm going to use all 5 of the pentatonic positions. Now, they're gonna have maybe a more expanded understanding of the fretboard, but as far as the finished product and the music that they make, the one who just focuses on the one position is gonna be able to be more musical because he's gonna be 5 times as comfortable with just that one position. And that's what you really want to develop. And so when I play, if ever you watch me improvise along to something, for me, the home bass is the foundation of everything. I'll always end up there. Even though I venture away and play other stuff, I'm not nearly as comfortable there as I am in that home bass. And if you can get that to a point where it exists in your mind's eye and it's like closing your eyes and tracing a map type thing, because you know it so well, like your neighborhood when you were a kid, right? You could adventure around it with your eyes closed because you knew it so well. That's what we want to have, more than just adding more stuff. So that's what I wanted to kind of encourage you to do, is focus on that home base. And we've talked plenty in my other lessons about where you can take it beyond what we talked about in today's video, which is you can start adding triad shapes. So every single diatonic triad shape exists inside of the home base. Also all your caged shapes. So every chord, again, in the key that you're playing in, every single one can use a caged shape that is connected. And then you can also start adding those other positional scales onto it. So a really big one, for example, would be to add, so let's say this is position 1. If we were to add our position 2 onto it, and then below it our position 5, so we get stuff on both sides, well, now all of a sudden we're covering a pretty massive chunk of the fretboard. And again, we're most comfortable with that core shape, but once you've mastered it, we can just start moving outside a little bit instead of being like, okay, well, now I need to go and worry about the entire fretboard, because that's where you're gonna just not be able to use those things to actually make music. I mean, there's so many guitar players who really have done something similar. Their home bass is gonna look different than the one I show you, because the one I show you is the one that has really worked well for me, but other great players are gonna use other ones, but they do the same thing, right? You're super comfy with that one spot. You're really good at making music there. And that's kind of the focus. Now, the second part of the lesson was about developing rhythm, Rhythm is probably the most important skill in general on guitar. Very often overlooked, especially with guys who really want to play lead guitar. They will quite often just be like, well, I don't really need to develop my sense of rhythm because I'm not playing rhythm guitar. Rhythm is so important, and being precise and tight and making sure that when you make the choice to play something, you're putting it exactly where you want to. For example, this might be not a great example, but if I were to play, like, let's say this group of notes. So, well, if I inject just a little bit of feel, which just comes from my sense of rhythm, all of a sudden I can make it sound way more musical. Right? However I decide to do it. All of that just comes from that internal sense of rhythm and timing, because now I can kind of play around with how it comes across. And that's a really important part of building melodies and making your solo sound a lot better, is that sense of rhythm. Of course, it applies to your rhythm guitar and all of those other things as well. With everything that we talked about in today's lesson, it does all just fit together with anything else that you might be working on. So those chord roadmaps that I showed you, that's just one variation of it. There's other ones that are rooted on different strings. There's ones that maybe extend a little further here and further there. In general, it's just any sort of roadmap that tells you which chords or where to place your chords based on the root notes. So the idea is anything that you are currently working on should just be able to slide right into this. And that's kind of the whole point, is that everything is connected and that you're seeing those connections. And that's what's going to allow you to go to that next level. If you're seeing those connections, the rest of it will absolutely come. It's not about speed or anything like that. So that's pretty much all I would say from here as far as practicing this. Work on the home bass along 2 tracks if you can, scooching it around to other keys. This is kind of stuff we've talked about before, so there's not a lot to say here. And try and integrate this into your own practice. Beyond that, I would say that you should definitely check out that video on my rhythm exercises. There are some more rhythm exercises that you can start implementing that will really help you there as well. So if you have any questions, make sure you leave those below this video. Other than that, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend or week whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you soon.